to the Northernlights. This is our 268 recap. I'm Dwayne.
I'm Mark.
And yeah, so I think it was a crazy card. Really, really exciting. I think it was a good idea for Chandler and Gage to go first, because obviously their coach was like doing 3 fights. So he
Yeah.
needed that bit of a break. And it was a great opener as well, I think, because normally with these sort of big main cards, you know, the first couple of fights tend to be a bit slower, and then you get your main 3. But I actually preferred this. I think you got a really good, strong opener.
I think it's a beneficial way, and I don't really like the term, but you know, for like the casual channel flickers sort of thing, if they just know the main event, but a strong opener for the main card like that, you get sucked into that one. Then you'll watch the other, for better for worse, we're saying lesser known fighters, and then you'll get the championship. But I thought, just as a fan, I really did prefer that as well. I thought that were a really good start. And to be honest, how often is it when a fight is talked up so much with 2 wrestlers and strikers, or like just 2 beasts, should I say? It's talked up that much, and it actually delivers.
I know, because the way they were sort of talking about the fight, like, I thought is one of them kind of bluffing a bit. Is Chandler just going to wrestle the whole time and just sort of? But they really just went for it. They just stood and banged for 3 rounds solid.
Yeah, as well. Aside from the last 60 seconds, but I mean that's a drop in the ocean compared to the rest of the card. That's a fart in a hurricane, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's compared to the first couple. It was like straight away though, wasn't it? And yeah, I loved it. I thought it was a great fight. We're back and forth.
Definitely. Well, because the first round, I think Chandler came out super strong. And I think for me, he comfortably won the first round, but maybe not comfortably, but it was close. You know, he was getting the better shots in. He was bringing him down the center, and I thought it was good. You know, and then second round, Gaethje dropped him, and it sort of just
that was a clean, nice uppercut though, wasn't it? Because he literally, I thought that was absolutely done. I thought it was a clean done.
And it's amazing for him to just get up and carry on fighting that way. He kind of reminded me of the Korean Zombie a little bit, you know, when he just stands there and just gets whacked, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it might not be good for your brain cells, but I mean, it's entertaining for us, isn't it? So that's one of them fights, though, I think, because when a cracking fight happens, or when there's a potential for 2 big stars or big names to face each other, as soon as the fight's done, people very quickly forget about it, and it just so happens that it's a fight in the past. But this is one of them where it should, if this makes sense to say, it should almost just be a dream fight that didn't happen.
Yeah.
You know, does that make sense to say? You know, like where like it's too unpredictable. I thought anyway.
Yeah.
You know, it's easy to say now that Justin had scraped a decision, but you know, none of us knew that at the time. No, I was surprised that Chandler was. I'm not saying he was a big underdog, but as big an underdog as what he were. I was surprised at that.
Yeah, especially when Chandler's like a big champ from Bellator, and he demolished Dan Hooker, like not even just a little bit, like he ripped him to shreds, and he dropped Charles Oliveira in the first round.
Yeah, he nearly finished him there. With him on that, he definitely nearly finished him.
Yeah,
I personally love the fight. I haven't seen the post-fight press conference, but I think that will definitely be a bonus.
Oh, it's got to be. That has got to be the fight. Definitely, it's so good. Gage got the win. I didn't necessarily agree with the judges. I think the third judge just took the piss all night. You know,
I love your messages. No matter what fight's on, and if it goes to decision, I just listen. I'd wait for your messages.
I exact breakdown of like this, and this.
Yeah. I'm like, Dwayne's gonna love this. I almost don't care because I just know that it's gonna piss you off because you come in like, you know, is this third judge pissed?
Yeah, well, I think it was like last year I watched like a video of like how UFC decisions are broken down, you know, and like I really got into it. I was like, oh, okay, this is how they do it. And they seem to really weigh heavily on takedowns. Like if you control for the whole round, it's almost like a 10-8 almost every time. Which, I felt like the judge took the piss a little bit. But it was a fair result. Gagey definitely won.
I do remember. I remember Dana. I can't remember what press conference it were, but it was like recently, as in this year. And he was talking, and he said, "I don't know how judges they give out 10-8 rounds as if they're like sweets." That.
Yeah,
and it is true, to be fair. Like, you know, a 10-8 round is Max Holloway against Calvin Cater. You know what I mean? Like, that is domination.
Yeah.
But they give it when someone just seems to scrape. I mean, I don't know, but I just thought it was a great way to open the actual card.
Yeah,
to welcome the main card in, because it gets you. It delivered as well. That's the thing that I was so surprised at, because I was like, this is good. This is either going to go really good or really bad, and the chances of it going really good is minimal.
Yeah.
No, just because your expectation levels are.
What did you think of Chandler in the third round? Where he kept sort of pointing to the floor. Did you see? He pointed to the floor, and then he slipped an uppercut in and nearly knocked Gagey out. And then he just
Is that not?
Yeah. And he
is
just
that not for stand and bang? Like, as in, let's do it. You know, like Greg Hardy with Tai Tuivasa.
Yeah,
when he stands there and just points to the floor, and then Tai knocked him out. Like, but that's a different story.
Problem is, though, Chandler didn't swing for like the last 60 seconds or so. He just stood there. He literally just stood there, just got hit. And then the last 10 seconds, he sort of started just doing swinging kicks and stuff randomly, you know.
Yeah. I didn't quite understand that either. But again, you know, it's the third round into a war.
You might
so
as well
just be knackered. You know what I mean? I don't know the mindset.
Yeah.
So I'm never one to say, you know, it's like that old drunk at the pub telling these prime athletes what to do, and they sat there, you know, with capital D.
That's me.
Bitter. Smoke. You know, it's like, so I always like I just watch as a fan, you know, and I can appreciate it. But I thought that was a really good opener. And then Shane Burgos.
Yeah, Shane Burgos.
That was the next fight.
Coming off a really funny knockout with Barboza.
I was worried when that happened. I was like genuinely like, this is a bit concerning, because I remember it just happened and it was a couple of seconds, literally, of still bouncing around with his hands, and then he just fell back. But you see the way he hit the cage, it weren't just a little stumble. As if he got hit again, like 5 seconds after. It was strange.
Yeah. And I always kind of worry about fighters who've had those kind of knockouts, because it feels like it sort of sets something in them, like their brain's not quite fully connected anymore. And like, because if you notice, like, say, like Chuck Liddell, once Chuck Liddell, for example, got knocked out, he just kept getting knocked out then. And it just kind of.
That's heartbreaking watching Chuck get knocked out, to be honest. It's like, I think I remember a documentary on him where his coach was talking and he says, you can't train your chin.
Yeah.
You know, and when you get to a certain, I don't know if it's age or just amount of fights or, you know, the wear and tear that you've had. I don't know. But I was, you know, grateful for Burgos' last fight against Barbosa.
Yeah.
I was grateful, you know, it was all right. But he fairly brought it. This was against Billy today. This was I thought fairly evenly matched going into maybe towards the end of the second round, fairly evenly. And then
it's great, really good, and I'm glad he kind of got that comeback, because those kind of knockouts, not that they can necessarily end your career, but if you have one bad knockout and then you come off a loss, is anyone interested in watching you anymore?
Yeah.
So I'm glad he came out and he did really well, because he's obviously a good athlete, you know.
Yeah, it is nice as well. And as bad as it sounds, I'm guilty of this as well, so I'm a hypocrite. If I was talking and I'd say, "Oh, Shane Burgos," I hope I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
And if someone says, "Oh, who's that?" and I say, "It's the guy who got the delayed knockout where he got hit in the head." It's like, that's what they become. Remember, like Ben Askren, your boy. You know what I mean? To anyone who doesn't know, any excuse just to get that in there, I think.
Look, Ben Askren is going to come back, right? He's going to come back. He's going to batter Masvidal, and then he's going to knock out Marty Fake Newsman. Yeah, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. Keep fucking dreaming, Dwayne. But
second fight with Jake Paul, if he's lucky, you know, fight the other one. Maybe you could fight Jake Paul's dad. That might be good.
I mean, it might be one that Ben can win if it's a boxing match, but we'll see. Yeah. So, Billy, do you not think Billy just looked? I mean, obviously, like I said, again, he's just been battered for 2 rounds, to and from sort of thing, but he looked like he was just a bit gassed. And
yeah, definitely. And I think, especially for sort of these younger fighters, or at least well-known fighters, I think it's a big deal for them, especially in like Madison Square Garden as well. Like that's a huge arena to fight in. You're fighting in front of all these people. There's a lot of pressure. You're fighting on one of the biggest cards of the year. That's a lot to take in. It's nerve-wracking. So I imagine that. And he got battered, getting punched in the head. That won't help.
Well, no.
But yeah, for the first round and a half, he was doing really well. But he just, I think he switched the gas off and, and.
To be fair, how old is he though? He's not so old though, is he?
No, they're both quite young, aren't they?
I think so. Yeah, is it late 20s, early 30s, something like that? So there's still a bit of time left, but it's just it was a good fight, and I look forward to seeing both of their next fight, whoever it may be, to be honest. But leading into that, then there was the Frankie Edgar Marlon Vera fight. Now tell me if it's just me. I don't think it is, but as soon as you see a name like Frankie Edgar or one of the older fighters that you've been watching for years, all of a sudden I seem to remember these fights with BJ Penn, with everyone else and that, and I think he's a beast. And then you almost forget as soon as you see the tail of tape, Marlon Vera 28, Frankie Edgar 40. And obviously, evidently, Glover Teixeira last week, he can do it at 42. Yeah. But like, it's one of them. I almost seem to root for him more because it's an older guy, and you want him to prevail. Don't you? Like, how much of a feel good moment was that for Glover? And I know it was for a championship, but for Edgar, especially coming off his last loss to Sandhagen, the devastating knee, I really was rooting for him in there. But.
Yeah, I was, because I think it's like what you said with Burgos, who's he? Oh, he's the guy who got that knockout. And the thing is with Frankie Edgar, he's such a legend, but I do now worry, is he going to be known as the guy who got knocked out by that flying knee? Is that by sort of casual, not like we're super hardcore, but are they going to remember him as that, getting knocked out by Corey Sandhagen? And I feel like the UFC tried to get rid of these legends almost as quickly as possible. It's like they've got a sell-by date and they just want to sod them off, and
give them to a young up and comer just to bin them off.
Yeah.
But to be fair, he was in that fight until
he got
the very end. What a kick that was! Because you messaged me, didn't you? You said, "Do you agree with that decision for the ref or early stoppage?" And I said, "I actually do." To be fair, I thought that was fair, because you see him, his arms fall forward, and he's not like as if he goes into guard his face or anything. It just seemed to not give up, and I don't mean that in a give up his heart sort of thing, but his body seemed to give way.
He wasn't in the right frame of mind, was he, when he stood up? He was wobbling all over the place. So at first I thought, it's a bit early to stop, but then when he got up, I was like, oh yeah, he's done for. But for me, he was winning that fight for the first and second round. I mean, first round he dominated by a lot, and the second round, they had a couple of exchanges, but Frankie got him on the floor, held him in position, held him down for the whole round. So he was winning. It was, it was 2-1, 2 up on the cards, and that knockout just took him down, didn't it? And
I didn't think you were going to get clipped with one of them up kicks though.
Oh they're scary.
They're nasty, them, because the up kicks. Every time you watch them, I know they go in like this, but you've seen Nico Price do it, and that was perfect, wasn't it? And you could just imagine, you might not even be the most powerful fighter, but it's your leg, you know what I mean? And smashing that in anyone's face, it could happen. But that was a really good knockout by Marlon, I thought. And I don't know, I can't remember what rank he is, Marlon.
He's 11th, I think. Was he 12th?
Is he I know that Edgar, he was slightly a few more in front of him, wasn't he? So now Marlon's
something like that.
Marlon will jump a few on Monday.
Yeah, definitely. He'll probably be 8th, 6th, maybe. They had a bit of a weird exchange, didn't they, after the second round? It's really unlike Frankie Edgar to be getting in a bit of a scuffle between rounds and telling each other.
Marlon gave him but he did address it afterwards, though, didn't he? What did he say? Because Joe Rogan said, "Oh, what was the the words exchanged in it?" And he said, "Just mind games, just playing mind games, whatever, something like that." Anyway, something along them lines. But
I guess it worked.
It does, it does suck maybe it's just a little bit clutching on the nostalgia strings for me because, like I say, I was watching Frankie Edgar, way back when, and it reminds me of. I always use him as an example, Chuck Liddell. You watch Chuck get knocked out, and you're like, it's like watching your fucking uncle get knocked out, and you're like, oh, for fuck's sake. It's just not nice.
Because like Chuck Liddell's like the granddad of UFC now, isn't he? Like for a period of time, he was the face of UFC, wasn't he? He was in films and all sorts. I loved him,
You know what? Every time that he's at an event and the camera pans to him, people love him. You know what I mean? But that's the decision, the direction I can see Frankie Edgar, and maybe I'm just clutching on because I enjoy the old school guys. But
yeah, I think Frankie can definitely still bang. He did super well.
Yeah.
He did really well.
Yeah, he's not tired.
Yeah, definitely not. I think he's definitely got a good few fights in left, but it depends what's on his contract. And I think the UFC need these kind of gatekeepers, like he's an ex-champion, at 155 as well, and he walks at 155. Do you know what I mean? So he was basically fighting in a weight that was a bit too heavy for him. And he's a champion. Well, he was the champion. And so that's good for people to get fights against him and a win or, just a good fight. It's good for them. Get good. Like, look at Corey Sandhagen, of course, we knew Corey Sandhagen and he was a good fighter, but that knockout over Frankie really shut him up a level completely. It brought him up a whole level. So you need those kind of fighters now.
Yeah, it's almost. I mean, not to dwell off topic sort of thing, but it sometimes does get that way. You look like say Anderson Silva's last couple of years. You know what I mean? It's almost sad to see because you're like, what he was.
Like his final fight by a hall, that's a crap.
That was but like I said, I felt it's just silly, but
at least he knocked out to Ortiz though, yeah.
In what round one? Yeah, he did actually do that. But the co-main event, first championship defended of the night.
Yeah.
Usman and Zhang Weili.
I think fantastic fight, and I genuinely, I'm being deadly serious. I think Zhang Weili was robbed. For me, she won 3 of the rounds, 10-9 easily, and so for me that she wins because of that. And there was not any 10-8s in there for Rose. Yeah, fine. In the last round, she kept her down, but she didn't do anything. She was just in top position, and she didn't really exchange many blows. Zhang was coming up, so she was getting as many strikes. But just because you're holding someone in top position does not make it a 10. Far from it.
It's like what the video was that you said when it's like how do the judges work. But then obviously I suppose it depends on the judges themselves as well.
Yeah, but they see monitors either. They don't see what we see. They see it from just their position, looking through a cage.
Yeah.
They can't see. Why aren't they on monitors? Seeing it all, seeing the highlights. Really seeing what's happening.
With that fight, I mean, personal opinions aside, I was actually rooting for Rose. I like Rose. She's one of my favourites. But if it was either way, I wouldn't have complained.
No.
If either one of them won, I wouldn't have bothered. But I thought that it would go to decision as well because they've both got knockout power, and evidently Rose can knock Zhang out. But I would have thought that they'd both been a bit more sort of steady pace kind of thing, And
yeah, definitely. But I like those fights. I like those methodical fights. It's almost like a chess match rather than just swinging at each other. It was really good.
Well, they're the kind of fights where, after they've squared off and the referee's telling the instructions, they say touch gloves if you wish, and then as soon as they go back, that's where your heart starts just to go.
That was beat.
Whether you've got money on it or not, it's just something that you're excited for, and who cares? It's you're into it, you're excited for it, and just for that 25 minutes, let yourself be invested in it. You know what I mean?
And a fantastic 25 minutes as well. Really exciting. You could have heard a pin drop. The tension was so high. But I think Zhang Weili, I mean, she's really, really improved as a fighter. From her last 2 fights before Rose, she seemed predominantly a striker, and just a bit of a heavy top grappler, stand up, rag them around a bit. But she was getting good, strong takedowns. Her positioning was really good. And she'd been training with Henry Cejudo. I thought she just But she did seem a little bit afraid of Rose's power. I think she was definitely afraid of getting that high kick again.
Yeah, I think it's just being cautious of it, though, isn't it? Because obviously, evidently, you know that can come.
Yeah.
And how quick it did as well in the last one. But I would have thought that Rose would have thrown it again. There was a time where Rose had thrown a head kick, and I thought, was she trying to get her again with that same kick?
Yeah, it wasn't going to happen, was it?
Nah,
and
I
Zhang
didn't think so.
a few times as well. Genuinely,
Yeah,
they will
definitely.
Really they'll get a third fight, but
there will be. I don't know if it'll be straight away. That look as good as them trilogies are. I almost like it when they wait a little bit.
Yeah,
because like you remember Stipe and DC? It was on the bounce.
it felt
Stipe,
like
for Stipe.
Yeah,
For Stipe anyway, wasn't it? Like each one of his, it went for DC, but if you're a diehard Stipe fan and you're like, you follow each of them, and it just almost seems like, I don't know. That's just me. Some people might love it because they want to get retribution or whatever. But now Rose has won 2, knockout and decision. It's one of them though. It's not like I don't want to devalue that head kick because it was great, but anyone can get a flash KO. Everyone's got a puncher's chance, or you know what I mean. And the decision wasn't like we've just been saying. It's not decisive, is it? So it's definitely the door is left open for a third.
%. But I think the problem is with that strawweight division is who else is in their league. I cannot see anyone in that division beating them two. But that's good. I think Zhang can have a couple more fights, and then Rose can have a couple more fights, a couple more defenses, and then they can meet again, maybe in a year, maybe 2 years, and I think that'll be a banger. 2 years time, and they
well, Rose is only 29 or something, isn't she? And I think Zhang, is she like 32, maybe
something like that. She's in her early 30s. They're both young, plenty of time.
Both got plenty of time. Yeah. It's not like they're fighting against the clock, but that was really good co-main event. I must admit, I was expecting it to be a little more, I'll use the word boring, than what it was. I was expecting them both just to be too cautious and where it just kind of like the pace completely drops off. But then the main event, Colby Covington and Kamaru Usman.
Yeah.
Now, did you think that Kamaru were just going to clean Colby out?
Well, so going into it, I genuinely thought, I think Colby's going to get him because when Usman fought Gilbert Burns, and Gilbert Burns dropped Kamaru in the first round of their fight, and I thought, well, Colby's a good striker. Well, he's not a super good striker, but he's very explosive.
It's pace, isn't it? He's not got power. He's not like. Well, no.
He's a volume striker, isn't there? He's volume striker.
Yeah, typically, yeah.
And I genuinely thought maybe he's going to slip, he's going to get him. But the first and second round, Usman completely dominated. He dropped him, and Colby genuinely looked nervous and he looked scared. He looked very hesitant.
I thought that actually in coming in because we all know it's an act. You know what I mean? Like anyone who watches it, watches the interviews and sees him outside of the cage and everything like that, you can tell it's an act. No one's that much of a dickhead. You know what I mean? But it gets people interested. And to be honest, I mean, this might be more personal opinion, but I think he did the right thing because he was saving his career.
Yeah.
By doing it. But like as in coming into it, I didn't think he seemed as confident as what he does in the week, the build up leading up to it. He just seemed a little bit, maybe I can't obviously say what he was thinking or what was going through his head, but Usman's finished Masvidal and he finished Burns as well. They were both this year.
Yeah.
And he's had a lot more fights than what Colby has since the last meeting because Colby's only beat Tyron Woodley, who's now lost like 16 rounds in a row or something in the UFC anyway. Yeah.
And I get Colby's hesitation though because he lost to Usman last time quite handedly but it was a close fight and Usman has definitely got better since then. So Colby knows in his head Usman's a much better fighter than when we last fought.
Yeah, I will go out and say I personally think that Usman, I'd say, is the best on the entire UFC roster, pound for pound. You know,
100%.
but we were speaking about this a while ago, and it's almost like the Khabib effect where they're that good, and I'm not taking anything away from them, but just as a fan just watching, you're like, well, who's going to pose a challenge? And you almost feel like the division's held up because it's a lot of fights that might well be good, and you can get a few, really good fights coming up, i.e., Masvidal and Leon Edwards sort of thing, but you almost feel like no one's going to be able to get to the top and beat Usman because you're kind of like that unpredictability about it, but he's just really good. He's an awesome fighter.
Yeah, and you're right, because the problem is when that division's held up, it makes the other fights interesting, but Usman's beat them all. It's now the losers division, isn't it? I mean, they're not losers; they're all fantastic.
No, but
they've all lost.
But it's like he's going around twice now.
Yeah,
Masvidal twice. He's going Colby. It's like Izzy in middleweight. He seems to be going around twice.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think is next for Usman though? Because who's next?
Well, I think Usman's gonna probably fight either Edwards or Diaz, even though Diaz doesn't really deserve a title shot. He's got that big title. I think Usman wants it. Big title, big name, and Usman wants that fight. But I think Colby is the only person who can beat him. In all honesty, because
give it a year.
Yeah,
and maybe even a name Chimaev. Maybe Chimaev might be up there.
Usman will eat Kumshot Chimaev in a second. He'll eat him alive. Have you
This is what I mean.
The size of
give him a bit of time. I usually hate a hype train because but I'm actually on board this one. I'm on board. I think he's a scary guy. But
pulling the brakes. No way. Wrong.
Well, give it some time because he's running his way through. He's just beat number 11, and depending on his next 2 or 3 maybe. And how active he is anyway. He absorbs no punishment, and he'll be probably back next week. But
if he can beat a few 3 top 10s, he's got a good chance. But and then what's for Colby as well? Because Colby did look really good in this fight. The first 2 rounds he looked awful, but the the third and fourth round, I thought he won. I thought he did really well.
To be honest, I thought he rocked Usman a little bit.
Yeah.
The 4th round and the 5th actually, did he? Where he just kept clipping him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have expected this. This is
Yeah. Definitely, because Colby, he kept punching out of range. In the first and second one, he just couldn't seem to find his range. He was just doing these big overhand swings and then an uppercut, and Usman wasn't even there. So then, who does Colby fight next? I think Colby probably fights the winner of Masvidal and Leon.
I think, because
who then fights Usman? It's just
this is the thing. But like Colby, like I said, the veil was ripped away when he goes over to Usman at the end and he starts talking to him, shook his hand. The fact that he even gave a post-fight interview, and I said to my friend when I was there, I said, for him, that was humble, and because maybe you don't want to give it away straight away because then there's no illusion there and stuff, and but that was fair enough for him. But to be honest, the only one I think that for me personally, the winner of Leon and Masvidal will be great, but with Masvidal, there's all that equity built up. There's all that bad blood. They've got the storyline. This is like the WWE storyline of they were best friends, now they're enemies sort of thing.
Yeah, that's fun. I forgot about that. Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's like there's all that equity built up.
Yeah.
And so that fight would sell itself.
But who wins that fight? I think Colby wins that handedly, right? I don't think Masvidal.
I think he'd be able to wrestle Jorge because Usman's too big for him to wrestle. Usman's take him down.
Strong, isn't he? And he couldn't get him down.
Too big. Any sort of any welterweight won't be able to take Usman down. But
that's why I don't think. That's why I don't think Kumshot Chimaev will be able to beat. Usman because he wins by fine. He had that one knockout, but his whole game plan is take you down, choke you, snap your arm. And he won't be able to do that to Usman. Usman's arm bigger than him. Won't be able to break Usman's arm. No chance. We better get hold of him. No way.
I mean, we'll see. We'll see when it comes to it. He needs a couple more.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that he's going to beat Usman. I'm not
play
laying
the
anything down.
Me
But
going
closer to the time. He's one of them though. Where what about Chimaev and Colby? What do you think of that there?
I still think Colby wins. I think again, it's like the strawweight division. I think Colby and Usman are the top. Zhang Weili and Rose are the top, and I just don't think anyone can compete with them. And I think it's the same with Izzy and Robbie Lawler. Not Robbie Lawler. Robert Whittaker. I think they're the top two. Who can beat Robert Whittaker? Apart from Izzy, I think there's really holding these big divisions up. But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens. I think it'd be good. We've got Holloway next week as well, so that's exciting.
Yeah,
I think that's exciting, and I think that's probably all we've got time for now. So thank you everyone for listening.